right. You know, before I got these a hold of these holographics, I was thinking about doing some really super basic stuff, but I'm like doing the opposite in terms of experimentation. Yeah. But it is really fun, and I'm having a great time. All right, so the experiment here is going to be on this Miri holographic. I'm going to try something that I never would have tried. Okay, I say that about certain things, but on a holographic type of cardstock, you wouldn't think that you can use any kind of water-based, media over the top. But like watercolors especially, okay? But this is a matte surface, so I got to thinking, I don't know, it might be able to take some water-based type of surface or medium, and to actually adhere to it. I guess if it doesn't adhere, we can always spray seal it. But I think it might work because I just scribbled a little bit of the watercolor pencil on there, and it did kind of stick. Not great, but we don't need everything to work perfectly. If it kind of works a little bit, but we get kind of a nice, result from it. It might not be kind of the result that we hope for, okay, but it might be adequate, because in a situation like this, the surface could potentially compensate for any type of kind of a weakness in our whatever process abilities, with the applications of such media. All right. So in other words, okay, so we're going to be trying something kind of really unconventional on this, all right? And if it doesn't work like we had hoped, or to the degree, maybe that's more accurate, to the degree we hope it would, if we get kind of close to it, or halfway, maybe the surface compensates for it in some ways from a visuals perspective, where it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to, I don't know. It doesn't have to come so close to kind of the ideal result, I guess I'm looking for. Now, I don't even know what this is supposed to look like, okay, on this. So I don't have too much in mind. I mean, I do have kind of an idea of what I'm generally going for. But we'll see what it, might look like on here. I'm going to be doing this piece in a similar fashion to how I've been doing many of my pieces on the semi-gloss cardstock with these watercolor effects on it. So let's see if they translate over. I hope they do, because I don't know, we'll have unlocked yet another potential usage for not only the imagery, but this type of surface. Now, I don't know if there's any other types of surfaces like this, though. In terms of a matte holographic, okay. Most of the cardstocks seem to be fairly shiny, glossy, and sealed off. This one, just to the touch, does not seem that way. It seems a little bit more porous. It could just be that it's a tactile thing. It could be just sealed off just as much as everything else, but it's just a little bit more matte to the touch. Okay. But let's see, where we can go with this. Okay, so building up here. That was the Mystic trees left and right, and the Mystic hills left and right. Now I'm going to be doing my mountains in the background. I wonder if I can get like a red sun up there or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know what I would do that in. It might have to be a cutout, because I don't have like a red brilliance. Probably pigment ink. That would probably, I'm guessing the brilliance would be the one to use on here. Okay, now everything I'm stamping out is in StazOn. Okay. The StazOn is going to dry and adhere to the surface just fine. By the way, every time I stamp one of these images out in the background, I'm kind of wiping off the bottom a little bit so that it stamps out lighter, so that it kind of transitions into the other imagery below it, just in a little bit more of a graceful fashion than having the bottom of it really dark. Okay, so it kind of fades out like that. Okay, let's see this, how we're getting that. Now everything is kind of running, all that patterning is going right through my imagery, so we'll darken it in. And we have a couple different choices. If the watercolors don't work, I do have a backup plan, which may or may not work. You know, but I don't know, it'll be plan B. Not all plans work in a laboratory setting, right? Okay. This is the smaller Mystic Hills here. Put that right in the background. All right. So we have a composition right there. I think it looks kind of cool just as is, but it's definitely, it's missing its kind of mass and body and, kind of the visual weight for all of the pieces. Let me put my Brilliance Black there. The Brilliance Black is going to be my backup plan. But let's just test this out. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm still, you know, kind of in my head. I'm kind of thinking I'm crazy here to be trying this, but I don't know. One of the things I've learned is over these last, I don't know, kind of last 2 years or so, is to not be too set on I don't know, I don't have as many preconceived notions of usage. Okay, so I'm adding this down here, and it's really applying pretty well. Okay, but before I do that, now that I think about it, let's add anything else in here that we're going to, where's my tiny rocks here? Okay, I'm going to add in the tiny, if you don't have the Tiny Rock stamps, the Tiny Rock Small, I don't know, you might consider it. It really anchors things down really nicely in water situations, grass. It's just a really, sand, you know, it's just a really great image. It's kind of boring, you know, but sometimes the most boring ones are the most widely applicable to different settings, but can really kind of help out with certain types of kind of design issues, I guess. Okay, so in other words, this provided me with a nice kind of foundation right down here, a transition, I should say, not foundation, but a transition into these areas right in here, okay? Okay, so let's keep adding this in. Bear with me here. I should fast forward this process right here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, so I'm adding in these shaded tones into here, into my rocks, and just the base of these little kind of islands here. And I'll do it for the background hills as well. I'll try to speed things up a little bit here. So if I don't add, my watercolor touches in here, it might be okay, because just kind of adding this base in here might be pretty cool. But we'll see. If we can do like some kind of watercolor effects on any type of holographic, I think that's, I don't know, to me that's fascinating. I'm not an experienced watercolorist or user of watercolor pencils, okay? Okay, going into the background imagery here. I'm not just coloring everything. These areas down here are generally shaded, bottom kind of shaded, okay? I'm adding kind of a visual anchor to these islands down here. So at the base of the island, it's darker. At the base of the rocks, it's darker, okay? But when I go up here into these pieces, I'm going to do it more top shading, so it looks like, some clouds are coming in from below. Everything's kind of in a blanket of kind of fog and mist, okay? I mean, some of that cloud and mist might be coming from above too, but it'll mostly be at the base of these objects. But I don't want it, just that cloud over everything. So I don't know. I'll just kind of oscillate it a little bit. Shade, a little bit of shade, a little bit of non-shade. Okay. And you might be asking, okay, all right, that's all fine and dandy, but okay, so where are we supposed to do that? Okay. And there's no, even for me, I'm kind of wondering that when I'm going into it, but it's not so much, a set location that has to be applied, or that's even ideal, okay? When I start doing this, it's always just kind of a matter of just varying it a little bit, just don't have something everywhere. Okay, so what I mean by that is, so let's say on this mountain right here, okay, there's dark up here, and there's a little bit of light right there, and then there's dark down here. Now, I could have had it completely opposite. There could have been dark right in here, and then a little bit right here, darker here. So kind of do what they call kind of checkerboarding your piece, okay? So I'm adding some of that darkness right there. And then see this where it goes dark, light, dark, and then I'm having a little bit of light right here, but maybe I'll come in with a little bit of darkness right here, okay? And see this part of the mountain right here might be different from this one, so you can kind of bring it in like this. So it's just about kind of varying your application of light and dark. Now I might do this again and it might be completely opposite, but not opposite in terms of, variation, but just where I apply that variation, all right? So if you have a meadow or something like that and you're coloring grass, leave some of that grass a little bit lighter in some areas than others, okay? And don't overanalyze it. Just, leave some grass light and some dark. It doesn't really matter where you put it. Unless you're like spotlighting something, you're gonna have a deer or something like that in the grass, then have where you're gonna put that deer in light, I would say, just to kind of spotlight it. Okay. Same thing with skies, I wouldn't just go all blue sky if it's going to be a blue sky, have some of or have it all blue sky, but some of it's going to be lighter than other areas, and, some of the sky is a little bit darker, so you get a little bit of variation in there. And that adds to visual richness. You could do it all, univalue, monovalue, okay? But it's potentially richer with contrast and variation, okay? It's just easier to create a more dynamic surface with variation, okay? Not that something can't be dynamic, kind of more monovalue, monotone, monovalue, like a super foggy day, where everything's just kind of in a veil of fog. That has its own kind of drama, but that's kind of going for something, like really a kind of a specific look, okay? All right, so adding this in, about like so. I might add some white to this as well when I'm done. Okay, let's add in some. Kind of little striations in my water. Now remember, I'm going to be coming into this with some water and, kind of putting some of this back into solution. You could do this too with just colored pencil and just don't, bring in any water, elements into this as well. And I think that'll be, pretty cool as well. All right. I'm wondering how my kind of streaks, that I'm putting into this are going to read with that patterning in the background. We have this specific kind of wavy lava mirroring going on in here. So it might go counter to my streaks over the top of it. I'm not sure. All right, but let's check things out. All right. Okay, so I don't know how this is going to take my water treatment on here. I did notice that when I touched this with a wet hand, it gave me this kind of interesting look. I'll show you right here. See that right there? This is kind of it's a real kind of frosted finish, but when I put that over the top of it like that, it makes it really kind of super glossy looking. Okay, now when that dries, it's going to look just like this again. But I don't know. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so as I'm going into this, when it's wet, yeah, it's making it look much more transparent. So I don't know if I can even see that black. Yeah, that I've applied with this watercolor pencil. It might only be visible. I'm talking about the watercolor pencil marks. It might only be kind of visible once it dries. So as I'm applying this, it's becoming very, very transparent and colorful because we're looking beyond this kind of matte surface here. I don't know, I find this surface pretty fascinating. I find them all pretty cool and fascinating to look at. With the holographics. I really like those kind of boutique specialty types of See how that changed right there? So see that water again? That clear water on there. But I don't know, let's see how this, see if I'm doing anything. Okay, so the thing that I can't tell then, when I'm going over it with this water, I have no idea what it's going to look like when it dries. Maybe after this first experiment, I'll have a better idea and can, kind of predict a little bit better, what I'm dealing with here if I do this again. But right now, I have no idea where it's going. Because it looks, just completely different when it's wet like that. You can see exactly where I've applied that water, right? So hopefully it's spreading that watercolor pencil out. For the most part, I'm kind of going into this with a, kind of a damp brush tip. It's not super wet. I don't know if I'm kind of removing the paint. Okay, now that's starting to dry up there, so it's kind of giving me that general look, and I think it looks pretty cool. See, as I'm coming into this water from the outside in, it's because my kind of watercolor paint or watercolor pencil is built up a little bit more on the outside, and I want it lighter on the inside, so I'm going from this outside to in stroke like that. I don't think I'll be needing to use the the Brilliance black pigment ink in these pieces. I think we're going to be okay without it. Okay, so what I mean by that is I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to get enough of the watercolor pencil to mark on here and then to kind of spread out like this. I was thinking that if this is really sealed off, when I go in here with my brush and I go into it, my fear was that I'd be removing, maybe a large percentage, if not all, of that media that's been applied on there. Especially for the fact that, see, as I'm going over the top of this, I don't think any of the media is getting absorbed into the pulp of the paper. Okay, I think it's all sitting on the surface. I can't imagine this is a porous surface type of cardstock here. I'm guessing it's non-porous for the most part. Okay, I'm getting a better idea though. This area up here is kind of dry. So what it looks like is it's kind of like largely grayscale in there. That patterning though, it's pretty dominant, so I don't know if it's kind of, kind of a obtrusive patterning in here. We might have to do quite a bit of white pigment ink to, to block out some of this that's going on in here. Like this you know, shard of a, you know, patterning is pretty crazy in there. Look how clear that it looks in there and rainbowish when wet. And it's just interesting stuff to work with. All right, so let me get one of my little boats to put in there. I think a little focal point in here, or the elk would be kind of cool standing right here. And let's go with a little fishing boat, though, I think. We'll do it in StazOn as well. I don't figure it out if I want them down here or up in here. Yeah, let's put them in that big open area. All right. Okay, let's get our bearings on how this is looking here. It's kind of an interesting surface, isn't it? Or look. All right, now let me go in. Now that I can kind of see everything with that water, you know, kind of blending here, I'm going to push my contrast a little bit more in some areas. Okay, so we've established, you know, how it's going to look for the most part in here, but let's push kind of some of the darker areas just a little bit more. And again, it's to get a little bit more variation into our forms. A little bit more contrast. And I'm not going to go over this with water again, okay? The water gave us that kind of that washy, you know, real fluid type of appearance in here. And this will just give me kind of more of a targeted shadow area. So you see these mountains up here, I just made that a little darker there, darker in there, darker up top there. Let's go a little bit darker right around in here. I'm finding these watercolor pencils work fantastic on this surface right here. So I guess you can use other kinds of colors as well. I don't see why not. You might even just use it to color with, even if you don't go for the, you know, utilize the watercolor aspect of it. And it seems like it'd be kind of interesting. Right. Really anchoring my forms down here in the foreground quite a bit more. Shadows in the water. So they hold up a little bit more against that the background. Okay, so that's my light. Now let's go into the, or that's my dark. And now I'm going into the light here. And let's use some of the white Brilliance ink. All right. You'll get the real kind of frayed type of cotton ball like that, but then just smash it down like that to get it nice and flat like that. And to kind of see every time you, with a brand new cotton ball, you'll kind of get that fraying, and then just smash it down to kind of condense some of that ink back into the cotton, and to give you a good surface in which to apply your media. Okay, one of these days we're going to have this seminar on kind of the use of mist and you know, clouds in your pieces. But just in general, I'm applying it where light meets darker, okay? So I'm going to start applying it in this area right down in here next to my darker areas. And I'm not going over everything. You're just kind of creeping it into those spaces, all right? To give you that real kind of softer transition right there. I don't know if you can see that right there. But it's kind of, I applied it right in here, and we'll come up in here too and see that background in there where it's a little bit lighter. You know, maybe I can come into, no, this isn't influencing things so much because it is fairly light in there to begin with, and it's reflective, so I have a lot of light coming out of there, but in person you can see it here, all right? But hopefully what I'm also doing is I'm kind of dampening some of that holographic look. This one's not a loud one. It's not like colorful or rainbowy or something like that. But I just want to kind of lessen some of that because it's such a loud type of surface that we're talking about here. So I just want to mute it down and just a touch like that. So can you see the difference between that white up there and like these areas down here? You can see that transition a little bit more. Let's see if I can show you at certain angles. Okay, see right here, you can kind of see that white right in here a little bit more. Okay. All right, now this is an area that's light right here. Remember, it goes kind of light below and the top is darker, so you just work it from the bottom up. In other situations, a lot of the situations, I have things top lit, so I'm working from the light down, okay? But not on this one. So it's not the same for every piece. It just, you know, depends on what you're kind of going after. I'm going into some of these trees, but I think it looks pretty good in those trees. Okay. But again, you're just kind of putting it over some things. See that tree right there? I came over it a little bit. So it's not like you're doing this and you're thinking, oh my God, I got it into this foreground tree when I want it in the background, you know. It's, you can put it over whatever. I just don't put it over everything, okay? So see this little row of shade down here? I'm just gonna come in my light area right here and watch this. This right here, I just kind of came into that, but look at that little fog right there. Sometimes people say they're having a hard time kind of doing this, but I think they're kind of expecting, kind of thinking it's a bigger thing than it is. It's just this tiny little bit right here, but look at this. It's really effective because it's like sharp, fogged out, and then sharp again over here, or dark, lighter, dark, like that. So it's just that, you know, kind of, it's about kind of, well, I mean, it's not always real subtle, but it could be, okay? but it's about the oscillation of this effect too. Okay, so I'm putting some of it right here, none, some, and then none over here, okay? And we can put it over some of these branches right in here. So they're a little bit lighter, they're kind of in the mist. Now let's build up a little bit more of that cloudy touch right back in here, because this does dry more transparent than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied. So if you build up a little bit more of a application of it, it can be good, like so. Okay. I'm going to come in here quite a bit right here because I have this hard shard of that patterning right there. See this? Remember that pattern was really hard and it went up there. So what I did was I muted it right in here by putting some white over the top of it. So I don't have this super obtrusive, you know, light beam kind of going in there. And see right up in here, you know, you can see that before it went right through the mountain, but see, I've kind of come up into it over the top of it with that white. Okay. Let's put a little bit of this at the base of some of these trees too. These tree trunks in here. All right, so wild. All right. Yet another kind of unexpected type of application of media on a given surface that I never would have thought would work. Until, like I said, until I started handling some of this, I thought, you know, this is kind of mad, and I think it could take something like a watercolor pencil. And like I said, I did a little scribble down here, and I was kind of wiping it off, and it was kind of adhered to it pretty good. So I thought, well, let's check it out and apply some water to it. So I don't know. This is pretty fun stuff to work on here. What I'm saying, I don't know, is it better than doing on, is it funner working on this with this end result than like a plain piece of white cardstock, okay, which is more kind of traditional in terms of the setting and everything like that. I don't know. This is some pretty cool stuff. It might be just because it's the first one that I've done with this, and also I never in a million years would have thought it would work. I thought it could, though, once, you know, kind of I fiddled around with it right before I started this, but it worked better than I thought it could, okay? So, check out, okay, so this is the personality of this one. You go like this, and you go like this, and look at that those different tones in there. Let me see if it looks different with another light on here, too. This is a little bit of a warmer light. It kind of looks weird, huh? But look at those colors up here. It's like little kind of rainbows, like right in here, that reddish tinge, gold. You can really tell the holographic nature of this piece under brighter light, like that. So the light that I'm using on here is, they're all fluorescents, so, and it looks a little bit different than what it would look like under other lighting situations or natural light too, so keep that in mind. All right, so yet another piece in the Stampscapes lab. This is really fun stuff, though. It looks like it's metal or something like that in some ways. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And holographic Miri lava. I guess this one's white. I don't know if it's white or silver. But fun stuff. And unbelievable, you know, bull to me, can work pretty well and not too much different than a piece of white You know, maybe semi-gloss cardstock.